Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. After Windsor police killed a dog during a wellness check last month, advocates say that this is not a standalone issue and something needs to be done. CBC's Dawson Chen has our top story.
Police training for dog encounters has been inadequate across North America for decades. That's according to experts and advocates who spoke with CBC Windsor on the issue after Windsor police fatally shot a pet pit bull in a West End apartment. Jim Crosby is a former police officer and dog trainer in Jacksonville, Florida. His canine aggression consulting firm has been trying to improve how police are trained to deal with dogs.
It's actually pretty poor. Number one, it needs to be mandated. All of the, for instance, provinces in Canada and all of the states in the US should be requiring dog encounter training for their police officers, specifically how to avoid using needless force. Even in a quickly emerging situation, you have the opportunity to plan.
According to Windsor police, the dog they shot on June 19th was being aggressive and dangerous to officers. The officers were at the apartment because of a man having a mental health crisis. Police say the man directed the dog to attack officers.
That's an absolute lie. Absolute lie.
Michelle Croft is the resident of the apartment. Her nephew was the man in crisis. She disputes the police account of what happened. According to Croft, the officers were never in danger from her nephew's dog, an adult pit bull mix named Zeus.
There were several around him that he was just jumping on. He was not nipping at them. He was not biting them. He jumps on me when I come through the door because he's so excited to see me. That's what he was doing.
Camille Labchuk, director of the legal advocacy group Animal Justice, notes that this is only the latest incident of Windsor police killing a pet dog. In March 2021, a Rottweiler Doberman mix named Chloe was shot by police in her owner's backyard.
Police interactions with dogs result too frequently in fatalities. And the police always say the same thing. They say it was necessary for safety. And I suspect in many cases there were better options, and that if the police had had better training and better policies to safely address the presence of animals, we wouldn't see this type of carnage.
For the past 10 years, Christine Grift of New Brunswick has been following news stories on this subject, collected on her Facebook page entitled Dogs Shot by Canadian Police.
It's because police are not properly trained in canine encounters. There's really no canine encounter training here in Canada. The fate of the dog is based on if the officer is an animal lover or not, if they are afraid of dogs or not.
Windsor police would not comment beyond their news release and have not disclosed anything about their dog encounter training. Michelle Croft says she's considering a lawsuit. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Just a warning that our next story is distressing. A young child has died after being struck by a train in Chatham early Saturday, just after 1 in the morning. Chatham police have confirmed emergency services were dispatched to the tracks and crews found the child, who had sustained critical injuries. Despite life-saving efforts, the child was pronounced dead at the scene. In a statement today, police said, "Our hearts are broken for the family and loved ones affected by this unimaginable tragedy. We ask the community to keep them in their thoughts during this incredibly difficult time." Support services have been made available to the family and first responders, and police say the identity of the child will not be released to respect the privacy of the family. A number of strikes are dragging on in our city, with workers growing more and more frustrated. A provincial leader paid Windsor a visit today to throw her support behind those on the picket lines. Pratyush Thayal has more.
A regional job strategy here, a regional labor strategy here.
Unemployment in Windsor, Essex was what the leader of the Ontario New Democratic Party discussed with community groups before hitting local picket lines.
We're looking at very specifically what is the reality that you're facing right now, what are you seeing on the ground, and what are the solutions? So what are the barriers to people finding employment once they lose their employment? How are we going to save jobs right now, and how are we going to make sure that people have access to better jobs?
Stiles also made an appearance at a rally for Canadian Hearing Services. They have been demanding fair pay and better working conditions from their employer, who in turn said that the union walked away from the bargaining table.
Fair contract now.
This is the 10th week for these workers. They include counselors, audiologists, and interpreters who support people who are deaf, deafblind, or hard of hearing. It's a second strike in 8 years, and the longest.
We've been pushed out, we've been marginalized, we've been do more with less, and it has to stop. We're not robots. We're not. We're human beings. This is deplorable. This is actually the worst employer I've ever had in my whole career.
At the Best Western Plus Waterfront Hotel, workers have now been striking for more than a month after rejecting what the company called its final offer. It offered to raise the salary for majority of workers from $18.02 to $18.85. The union represents almost 40 workers at the hotel in guest services, housekeeping, and maintenance. Its president says disappointment runs high.
But it's no longer feasible to support your family on $18.02. So we are looking for significant improvement on wage, and we are asking the employer to come back to the table.
So far, no end in sight for these strikes in Windsor.
One day stronger!
Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Windsor.
Khalil Hassadali is with us now for our first look at weather. Khalil, beautiful day, a hot one, but a storm might be brewing.
It definitely might be brewing. So what we do have, Katarina, right now is a severe thunderstorm watch for southwestern Ontario. So that includes the Windsor area. What does this mean? A watch versus a warning. So I heard about this a little while ago, and I thought it actually made a lot of sense. It's like you're making tacos. So a watch is we have all the ingredients to make a taco. A warning is we're making tacos. So right now we just have a watch, so we have the ingredients, and that is going to be for southwestern Ontario through the rest of the afternoon and evening. I will have more on that.
That's a helpful explainer, Khalil. Thank
right.
you. In national news now, the Prime Minister has met with representatives of the big three automakers and the Canadian auto industry in Ottawa. The talks come as Canada prepares to resume trade negotiations with the Trump administration. As it stands, tariffs on the sector remain at 25%. CBC's Olivia Stefanovic has more.
Automakers arrived at the Prime Minister's office with a clear objective.
And what do you want to get out of today's meeting?
We're here to talk about the importance of the auto sector. We'll be discussing EV mandates, of course, as well as a range of other policies to make sure the sector succeeds.
Do you think that's sustainable, though?
Well, the EV mandate itself is not sustainable. The targets that have been established cannot be met.
Since March, the big three North American auto manufacturers, General Motors, Stellantis, and Ford, have asked the federal government to repeal a mandate requiring all new vehicles to be emissions-free by 2035.
Will you drop the EV mandate?
The finance minister won't say if the government is willing to go there.
We're always going to be there to support the industry and our workers.
But Ottawa is facing pressure.
So when I put tariffs on Canada, they're paying 25%, but that could go up in terms of cars.
On top of threats of even more tariffs, the U.S. is set to phase out electric vehicle tax credits from the Biden era if President Donald Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Budget Bill becomes law.
Addressing these zero-emission vehicle mandates is key.
We've been very worried and very expressive about that concern, that if those companies can't sell into the U.S. profitably, they won't sell into the U.S. profitably. These aren't charities, they're publicly traded companies.
The Prime Minister's office says Mark Carney spoke to automakers about the work his government's doing to land a new trade deal with Trump by July 21st.
We're doing what's necessary in order to get the best deal for Canadians, and we get the best deal for Canadians, we'll agree to it.
If there's no agreement by that deadline, the federal government vows to impose countermeasures, retaliatory tariffs that Carney says will match the state of negotiations. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Premier Doug Ford says Ontario will try to hit its climate change targets by 2030. That after CBC News obtained internal documents that say the province will miss those emissions goals. Our Queen's Park reporter Sean Jeffords has the story.
That's our goal. Our goal is always to hit 100%, and we'll do it as quickly as possible.
Doug Ford on hitting Ontario's 2030 climate change targets. The government has promised a 30% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from 2005 levels by that year. The Premier on Friday reacting to internal documents obtained by CBC News, which say Ontario will miss that mark. But he still believes the province can get there.
That's our goal, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do our very best to achieve it.
According to briefing notes obtained by CBC News through a Freedom of Information request, in March, civil servants told Ford's new environment minister that the province won't hit that target. Ontario will miss it by 3 megatons of emissions, barring any changes over the next 5 years. The Premier says his government is committing to nuclear energy as a way to help green the province's electricity grid. Ontario will spend $20 billion to build 4 new small modular nuclear reactors.
We're going to continue being leaders in nuclear and delivering clean, green energy to the grid.
Opposition leaders say Ford's promise to hit the climate targets rings hollow.
Well, it's just BS. I mean, the Premier, by saying that, is gaslighting Ontarians into thinking the government actually has a plan to meet our climate pollution reduction targets. Ontario simply does not have a plan.
I didn't realize the Premier was a magician, because there's no way we're going to make those targets.
Environmentalists say Ontario is headed in the wrong direction. It needs to strengthen and enforce its emissions standards and reduce its reliance on natural gas.
Well, first, I have a weight loss goal, but I was eating fries and beer yesterday. So, if you're not actually doing anything to achieve your goal, having a goal is not that helpful.
The spokesperson for Environmental Defence says the province's nuclear plan isn't a slam dunk.
Betting so heavily on nuclear, which is what the province is doing now, is taking a big bet on technology, in the case of SMRs, that has not even been developed.
Ontario Power Generation will build the 4 small modular nuclear reactors at its Darlington site. But the first of those units won't be online until late 2030, the same year the Ford government has promised to hit its emissions reductions targets. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
The city of Windsor is working on a plan to enhance its tree coverage, given that it's falling behind compared to other cities in the province. And as CBC's Jennifer Lagrassa reports, every tree matters.
So people should appreciate the trees they have.
City Forester Yemi Adiye is standing where Windsor's oldest known street tree used to be. On St. Louis Avenue, there was a massive silver maple, thought to be between 150 to 200 years old.
It was quite big and quite robust. It has this very surreal feeling when you walk by it because it's so majestic.
But in 2018, an assessment following damage from a storm confirmed the worst. It was unsafe and had to be taken down.
When we had our kids, we would always walk around the neighborhood, and that tree was giant, and the kids noticed it. And they always wanted to get out of their strollers when they were little, and they'd go up and hug the tree, and just, we really became like it was a friend. We drove by one day, and it was coming down. It was like losing a part of us.
But that soil is now home to a new tree. And there are still many other elder trees in the city, like this white elm on Bernard Road, which is likely more than 100 years old.
Whether it's a large tree like this one that can provide shade on a hot and sunny day, or a newly planted one which can absorb carbon dioxide, all trees are extremely valuable, says the city.
But in Windsor, the latest data has shown that there's only 19% tree cover, which is lower than other southern Ontario cities. That's one of many reasons why the city has been working on a strategy to better maintain and enhance its trees. It's called the Urban Forest Management Plan, and if approved, it would be the first of its kind for the city. A final draft of the plan includes 62 action items to be done over the next 20 years. Short-term goals over the next 5 years include updating the city's tree inventory and hiring more people for the forestry division. A rough estimate says the plan could cost about $13.2 million. The plan will go to City Council for approval, but there's no set date on when. Jennifer Lagrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Gas was detected near Wheatley's library for the second time in less than a week. On Tuesday, a member of the public reported a strong odor, and it was in the area where an old water well was found to be the likely source of a gas leak last week. Some residents were advised to shelter in place as a precaution. Just after 9 p.m., fire officials said that gas was no longer being detected, but fire crews would remain on the scene to monitor the situation. And this site is just a block away from where a number of abandoned wells were found after an explosion in August of 2021. An investigation is underway to see if there is any connection between the two sites. Stay with us. When we come back, we will have international news for you. Stay with us. Welcome back. Sean Diddy Combs has been found guilty of prostitution-related charges, but the music mogul was acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering offenses. Those more serious charges could have put him behind bars for life. CBC's Jennifer Yoon has the latest from New York.
After 7 weeks, 34 witnesses, and long, grueling days of testimony and jury deliberation, the jury has come to a verdict on the criminal case against Sean Diddy Combs. The music mogul was found not guilty of racketeering, not guilty of sex trafficking, of 2 counts against Cassandra Ventura, a former longtime girlfriend and a woman who only testified publicly under the name Jane. He was, however, found guilty of transporting these 2 women with the intent of prostitution, a charge that carries a maximum sentence of 20 years. But ultimately, he avoided life in prison, and you could see that he was happy in the courtroom. He nodded at the jury, mouthed thank you, even doing a prayer hands at them, and you could see the emotion from him, from his family, as he heard the verdict. Now, outside the courtroom too, his supporters, Diddy's supporters, were elated. They were celebrating, they were chanting, but there were also people who are concerned about what this verdict will mean for those who have experienced gender-based violence.
I believe that this verdict is going to make the rest of the cases that come down the line a little more difficult to prove. It's very hard to get up on that stand for victims. Cassie got up on that stand. Jane got up on that stand. The jury didn't believe them. They believed that there was consent.
Cassandra Ventura's lawyer, in the civil suit that she filed against Diddy, alleging violence, also commented on the case.
But we're pleased that he's been held responsible for something, which is something that hasn't happened in his lifetime. And, we're hopeful that ultimately he receives a substantial sentence for what he's done. And, we're pleased that Cassie's brought to light everything that has happened in this trial. I just spoke with her and with the U.S. Attorney's Office team. And she's in a good place. She's pleased that, again, that the jury has found him liable, or guilty of 2 federal crimes.
There are still dozens of civil cases filed against Combs. What this verdict will mean for those cases is still yet to be seen. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, New York City.
Tibet's spiritual leader Dalai Lama has laid out rules for his succession. He says the centuries-old Tibetan Buddhist institution will continue after his passing, putting to rest speculation that it would end after his death. The details come ahead of the leader's 90th birthday on Sunday. CBC's Jamie Strachan has more.
Days before his 90th birthday, the Dalai Lama announced he will have a successor and laid out how they will be chosen. The Gaden Phodrang Trust has sole authority to recognize the future reincarnation, he said. No one else has any such authority to interfere in this matter. That trust is a group of exiled Tibetans appointed by the Dalai Lama more than a decade ago. The Dalai Lama had previously suggested he might be the last in line, but he told followers he reconsidered after consultations with spiritual leaders and appeals from the public.
The whole Buddhist followers, non-Buddhist followers, whosoever is interested in the Dalai Lama institution, they have asked the Dalai Lama to continue.
Beijing is rejecting the plan. China annexed Tibet in 1951 and has tightly controlled the region since, and has long said it will choose the next Dalai Lama.
The reincarnation of the Dalai Lama must adhere to the principle of domestic search and approval by the central government.
Beijing and the Dalai Lama have feuded for years over who will decide about reincarnation.
He represents a vision of freedom for the Tibetan people, which unfortunately the authorities in Beijing see as a threat to their own rule.
Yeah, His Holiness Dalai Lama.
The decision is resonating here at this Toronto temple.
This is us Tibetan people is important, We are continue keep our traditions.
Toronto is home to about half of the roughly 10,000 Tibetans living in Canada, many pushing back on China's involvement.
Why is Dalai Lama so important to you? Leave us alone. You already took our country.
The Dalai Lama promised to leave behind clear instructions, but with two sides claiming authority over what's next, those instructions will clearly face challenges. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Khalil Hassanali is back with us now for more on weather. Khalil, let us start with that storm watch because we know you're keeping a close eye on that.
Definitely, Katerina. So we've actually have pretty nice weather right now in terms of partly cloudy conditions, but there is once again a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Windsor, Leamington, Essex County right now, and that's going to be continuing through the rest of maybe the afternoon, if we can still call it, because the sun is out, and through the evening hours as well. So let's watch for this. So severe thunderstorm watch. It could bring some heavy downpours at times. It could bring some strong winds as well. So we really do want to lock down anything that might be loose in our backyard, let's say some chairs or some pots. So it's going to be the next 6 to 8 hours that we're really going to be looking at this. And then afterwards, we're actually going to be drying out pretty nicely. A lot of sunshine is going to enter the picture. And then it's getting hot as we go towards the weekend. So let's look once again, at this severe thunderstorm watch that's in place for southwestern Ontario. And it's really going to be affecting, once again, Windsor, Leamington, and Essex County. And that's going to be bringing, once again, gusts of about 90 kilometers an hour potentially. And there's also going to be some hail that could be possible too. Not only showers, but hail could come down about nickel size to 3 centimeters. So let's watch out for that and be extra careful through the rest of the evening. And if you hear any thunder roaring, go indoors. That's going to be the motto as we go through the rest of the evening. And that is quite impactful. And it's going to be not only through Windsor, Essex, but also towards London and a little bit north of London as well towards Sarnia. So let's watch for this and be careful for the rest of the night. So we do have the severe thunderstorm watch in place, but still pretty nice outside. We're looking still at a temperature of 30 degrees in Windsor, 28 in Chatham-Kent, and about 24 in London. Right now, we're looking at a pretty good temperature of 30, and it's going to be really the high spot as you go through the middle of Canada towards the East Coast. A little bit warmer still in Vancouver and Edmonton, Calgary. But there is going to be, once again, as we go through the overnight, before we get to that severe thunderstorm watch, but once we get to the overnight hours in real darkness, 19 degrees is our overnight low, so pretty nice. And then for tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be pretty nice as well. 29 degrees is going to be our high temperature, and it's going to be pretty nice through the west of southwestern Ontario. 29 on Thursday, 29 on Friday, and then lots of sunshine for the weekend, but it's really ramping up the temperature as we get up to 32, and that's not even including the humidex value. And then through Sunday, it's also going to be hot and humid for anyone wanting to get outside, Katerina.
Thank you so much, Khalil. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We will see you tomorrow.